YangYang Xuanling's Resonator showcase just released, and I don't know about you guys, but this is probably the most confused I am after a Resonator showcase since for Lovis. Every other Resonator showcase before this, we can somewhat tell roughly what the timeline is. With Hiyuki, it seems to be back in the past, with a mixture of when her sister was still alive and when she sealed the Deemer planes. With someone like IMF during her graduation Resonator showcase, because she has multiple, it's during her original graduation time with her classmates after her death. And even with someone like Frolova, we can at least guess that it was before her story patch of 2.5, but after she joined the Fraxidus because of her attire. However, YangYang's Resonator showcase doesn't really follow any of these. For one, we see a destroyed Jingzhou, which never really happened. That, coupled along with the fact that it shows Chiksha and Baizhi most likely either dead or severely injured, shows that this is most likely not in our current timeline. I also believe this because she also states that she doesn't think that this is how the story should end, but we'll get back to that point later on. The next few scenes show YangYang after the destruction of Jinzhou and the initial scene that we saw, with her stating that the Overthrax had reawakened and that Jinzhou was able to draw it back, but at a great cost. YangYang thus says that she should have stayed, but the streams beckoned, leading her across strange lands. This is also coupled by the scene of her sailing on a boat towards what seems to be Resonator. This also shows that Resonator seems to be in their own crisis, but then it pans the camera and she then teleports into what seems to be Mingzhou, which is also in their own state of chaos. Most of you already realized by now, this is basically Rover's journey, with the Black Shore, Honami, and Stortorch Academy excluded from it. By this point, I realized that this has to be a different universe or at least a different timeline, because where is Rover? Why is YangYang taking up the mantle of what Rover is usually doing? And as you might have guessed, in lore, YangYang isn't the Lord or Lady Arbiter. She can't do what Rover does. Basically, no one else in Solaris can. So she struggles even against a lower level TD. In the scene where she is defending someone against a TD, she states that when she follows the wind into the heart of the storm time and time again, she finds herself harboring an unworthy thought, and that there is someone who is very important that she could never forget. During this scene, she looks over trying to find this someone, but to no avail. While she is distracted, she gets knocked down by the TD, and it is here that she states that their paths were meant to cross here. This is also when, in her iris, you can see Rover appearing, and at this moment, I thought my theory was wrong. Clearly Rover is here. Maybe this is from way back then, before Rover wiped their memory, and YangYang is projecting herself as being this old. But with the fact that there are so many plot holes if we go by this, and the fact that she becomes Rover after slashing through the TD, we can basically inference that there is something else going on that we don't know about. The scene then goes on to show the floor cracking and YangYang falling through it, followed by a flashback basically of her younger self talking to what seems to be her mother, telling her to be patient and that she will find her path, with the young YangYang asking what her path is. It then shows a scene of her older sister, Sui Sui, telling YangYang that for her, she just listens to what her heart tells her to, and that if YangYang searches within, maybe she'll find her answer too. It then cuts to the young YangYang walking through a cloudy environment, with multiple of the 1.0 cast from Jingzhou greeting her and then walking past her. This is also when she states that she thought she had found her place, and isn't it her wish to preserve those moments forever? The scene eventually fades away back to the original older YangYang asking herself, didn't she aspire to become the wind that can carry them all? What I basically got from this scene is that this YangYang from this timeline who fell through the floor is basically about to die. She goes through her little flashback moment to get the motivation and to reminisce on the people that she cares about. Now, characters like Mortefi or Sanghua not being there, I'm not sure. Maybe they weren't close. But I basically get the feeling that in this scenario slash timeline or universe, they are either dead or have lost what the meaning of their own life is. This is because YangYang then says that she has failed to accomplish anything, which basically tells us she was not able to carry them all. After the scene of the ravens lifting up, it shows YangYang overclocking and becoming YangYang Xuanling. In this scene during her overclock, her eyes look lifeless, showing that maybe the situation is already too late and too dire for her to change anything. After her transformation, the camera then pans to what seems to be the 3.5 boss in Mingzhou, with her stating that even if she has to sacrifice everything, even if this is her ending with quotation marks, she will follow her path to its very end. Now before going to the final scene, this basically shows that YangYang is dead or is dying after this whole entire debacle. We know overclocking takes a tremendous toll on the Resonators, with situations like Jinxi and IMF being perfect example. I believe during the overclocking animation, YangYang already knew that it was already over for her timeline / universe. The showcase then ends with what seems to be the YangYang that we saw overlooking another YangYang with Baizha and Chiksha, and I bet most of you also realize this is the area where Rover was found initially at the beginning of 1.0. YangYang then says, "The nightmare before dawn foretells an unchanging conclusion. Votary of the voice, go forth towards your true beginning." Now, like I said before, I'm not an English major, I don't analyze Socrates' writings, but what I got from this is the nightmare before dawn, nightmare being the name of this showcase, basically telling us everything in this trailer is the nightmare, and the dawn is the beginning of the game at 1.0. And Voidary of the Voice, with votary meaning a deeply devoted or zealous follower of a person, cause, religion, or pursuit, according to AI overview of Google, being YangYang, and the voice being what she is delivering to this new YangYang. And the towards your true beginning, I believe the your is addressing this new YangYang, and the beginning is the dawn, or the beginning of the story. This is also accompanied by the new YangYang turning around either by the voice, the wind, or the leaf. Now I know that's a lot of random information that I just spouted out and might or might not be true, probably not. I'm not really an analytical journalist. But to paint a clear timeline, what I believe happens is YangYang A, which is what we are following in Nightmare, never found the rover in the beginning. But Overthrax reawakening still happens, Dreamless existing still happens, Leviathan still exists, basically everything that Rover has dealt with still happens, other than the ones that Rover themselves have caused. One big caveat is anything that is caused by the Fraxidus or any third party, because the rover is found and exists in the current timeline that we're playing through, will most likely not happen or at least be changed in some way. And if we go by the theory that Rover still technically exists but has never been found by YangYang, things that he has caused in the past before his memory wipe, like Frolova's Promise, Star Torch Academy with IMF, those still happened. Who knows, maybe the driving force from YangYang that makes her travel to these places might be the voices in her head. Now hear me out, that kind of sounds stupid, but there's a theory that was brought online that YangYang, at least in her Xuanling form, might have another ability that might awaken towards the end of her life or when she's actually already dead. And as mentioned before, towards the end of the showcase, it's shown that the YangYang that we've seen through this Nightmare showcase is overlooking the original crew at the location of where they found Rover. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems to me like YangYang saying Votary of the Voice, go forth, as in a suggestion of her power to the other YangYang, basically giving her a suggestion of where to go, but not an exact dev note or a exact written instruction. This is like if Subaru had memory loss every time he died, but his body still remembers what he did before. Now this would make sense because during the showcase towards the midway, how does YangYang know that Rover exists? How does YangYang know that there's an important person that she will never forget that she has to find? This also makes more sense than actually having the ability to just feed herself information like a dev note or like a complete memory retention, because YangYang in this trailer and YangYang in our current timeline never tells anyone that they have this ability because they themselves don't know. They just have a feeling that they have to do this because that's what their power is. It's a suggestion. It's a voice in their heart, which also ties back to what her older sister said, where she said to follow her heart and she might find her path. She's following her heart, but her heart is actually just her forte ability after her overclock or her second awakening, but that is still her path because that's the path that leads to her friends not dying and the world not ending, thus preserving these cherished memories. As we see near the end of this trailer, YangYang actually learns the ability because she either overclocked or is near death's door, or if not both. And we can see at the end of this trailer that she's able to use this ability to guide the new YangYang before disappearing herself. And if this theory happened to be true, this would mean that YangYang is one of the most important characters in the Wuthering Waves storyline. That's because YangYang, as we know from this trailer, is the person who discovers the rover. And without her ability to keep looping over and over again, and then every time she loops slowly influence herself through her heart, which leads her to the path of finding the rover would have never been found. The game would have kept looping. And at the end of the trailer, when she said that the nightmare before dawn foretells an unchanging conclusion, what I get from that is that basically if her suggestions never led to her YangYangs ever finding the rover, then it would have kept looping. The world probably wouldn't have been saved, and if YangYang didn't exist, then the world probably would be what the Nightmare trailer shows, where every single region is just in chaos because of the lament, and everyone is just dead. YangYang's whole Resonator showcase seems to be just forcing herself through multiple loops to eventually finding the rover because no one else is strong enough to basically save the world or stop this loop. And thus, the Aura Monster Arbiter wins again.